I wanted to share 7 steps to building trust with yourself again. I realized I've been in this space where I don't trust myself to make the right decisions. If you're getting it wrong with God, if you're somebody who doesn't take risks, doesn't step out in faith, you may not have like a self-trust issue. And realizing this, that kind of stemmed from my narcissistic abuse and just previous failures that I started to identify as a failure. So I just wanted to share 7 steps that helped me to overcome that and build trust again with myself so I can be confident in making decisions. The first step is to be honest. Acknowledge the real reason your trust is low. Now, self-trust rarely breaks because you're weak or incapable. It breaks because of these kinds of things. You were either punished or shamed for mistakes. You were told your instincts were wrong, or you had an experience that proved your instincts were wrong. Like as for me, I didn't trust my gut instinct when I met my narcissist back in the day, many years ago. I didn't even know what narcissism was. But after getting away from that relationship, looking back, I gave myself a hard time for not noticing red flags that I didn't even know were red flags at the time. So you can also be told that, your voice isn't, anything doesn't matter. So you were constantly someone who overrode your own voice to please other people or to be accepted. Trauma taught you that danger comes from being wrong. It's another thing I had with narcissistic abuse. So if you've had traumatic experiences in your life, and any kind of trauma, be like dangerous to make the wrong decision or step out into something new. Or you just didn't have a safe support system when you made decisions that didn't go well. We all make mistakes, but if you didn't have the support to remind you that you were not your mistakes, or if people around you were giving you a hard time, you may have internalized some self-trust issues. But compassion must come before confidence, so you have to kind of take an honest look at yourself at step 1, like why you don't trust yourself, but not give yourself a hard time about it, right? Offer yourself some grace, forgiveness, and love like God would. The second step is to start making tiny commitments to yourself. Especially after narcissistic abuse, I started making these grand, big plans, and I would fail them because I was still healing, physically, emotionally, mentally. But, the more failures piled on, the more I internalized being a failure. So I would recommend starting small. Make tiny commitments to rebuild trust with yourself. Pick something that you cannot fail. It's so small. Like, just tell yourself you're going to drink 1 glass of water a day. Make that commitment to yourself. If you have ADHD kind of tendencies like I do, set an alarm on your phone every 45 minutes to an hour. Be like, hey, drink water. And as soon as you drink water, your brain's going to be like, hey, we're capable of remembering to drink water like we said we were going to do. Just tell yourself you're going to stretch for 30 seconds. Make it small. Make it doable. Decide to read 1 book, 1 chapter, 1 sentence of the Bible a day. And as soon as you accomplish your task, that tiny task, your brain has something to build off of. Like, hey, we can trust ourselves with the small things. And later on, we can trust ourselves with bigger things. Start saying that your voice matters, you're capable, you can depend on yourself, even in small tasks. The third is also kind of an extension of that, is to make decisions quickly. Stop overthinking, stop ruminating, stop kind of looking at every outcome, but keep it small as well. Just pick a shirt. Doesn't matter, if you mismatch for the day, just pick an outfit. Give yourself a maximum 20 seconds to make a decision, no matter what it is. If you don't know what to eat for lunch, take 20 seconds max to just eat food. Pick something, eat it, move on with your life. Again, with reading the Bible or any book, playing a video game, anything, set yourself up for success. Saying, I'm only going to play this game, or I'm going to read this chapter, I'm going to read this, etc. and just give yourself 20 seconds to make that decision. This builds decision-making muscles without the pressure. You think it's pressure, like giving yourself 20 seconds, but really it's just make the choice and move on. Stop overthinking. Like, you can always come back and make a new choice. Trust yourself to keep making those little tiny changes and tiny decisions. The fourth step is to reframe your failure as feedback. We kind of internalize failure. Failures happen. We're all human beings. We make mistakes, but we are not mistakes. You know what I mean? So you are not a mistake. You make mistakes. Be honest with yourself. You're going to continue to make mistakes. You're human. But you are not a mistake. You are not a failure. When it becomes an identity issue, that's when self-trust erodes. Especially if you keep making big decisions and keep failing, taking risks that keep failing. Don't let that become part of your identity. You want to reframe and say, my mistakes are information, not identity. Failures don't mean that you can't trust yourself. Failures mean that now you know something more, and you can choose differently, choose better next time, evolve, grow. That's what failures and mistakes do. They kind of teach us what doesn't work. So we just have to keep trying something else. You respect people more when they show growth. So do that to yourself. Humans will mess up. Being honest, humble, teachable, that's our goal for all aspects of life. So give yourself the same grace. Value yourself, respect yourself the same way that you can choose something different, move beyond failure, because you are not the failure. The fifth step and tip I would suggest is to truly take an honest look at what you're afraid of. Bring your fears to light. You need to identify what the fears are that are holding you back. For me, I said, I don't take risks because I fear failure and loss. The deeper fears I had were repeating past outcomes, past decisions, especially with romantic relationships, picking the wrong person, trusting the wrong person. Betrayal wounds are deep with me. I have a fear of judgment. I had a fear of disappointing God and people. That's why I was always waiting and kind of afraid of getting it wrong, even though I knew kind of what God wanted me to do with my life. I had a fear of losing control. I have control issues. And you can be afraid of being alone in your consequence. If you don't have a support system, it's kind of hard to make decisions without that feedback, whether you fail or not, So name the fear so that you take the power out of it. Write down, if I take this risk, I'm afraid that blank. Write down, be honest with yourself. This fear comes up when notice when you become afraid. Are you making a big decision? Are you making small decisions? Are you afraid of getting it wrong with God? Are you afraid of disappointing people? List out everything that comes up when you're afraid, and what scenarios are you afraid in? So as soon as you bring them to light, you can kind of bring them to God and have courage in spite of that fear to take action. Which leads me to the next step, number 5, is to invite God back into your decision-making process. Self-trust is strengthened when it's anchored in God. It's you and Jesus partnered throughout life. You have the Holy Spirit. Use him. He gives you, what you need in the moment. Trust that his wisdom, his power, everything is better than any decision you can make wrong. Our God, our good Father, is in the business of redemption. Trust him to be able to put you on the right path, even if you make a wrong decision. Trust in his discernment, in your discernment, and keep your prayers in alignment with asking for wisdom and discernment every day. Ask God these kind of questions. God, what aligns with your peace? What aligns with your will? What choice will lead to freedom, not fear? And then what step reflects the fruit of the Holy Spirit within me? So when you partner with God, you really can't go wrong. You are going to make mistakes still, but don't be afraid of making mistakes because you have God on your side. And the last step is to start speaking to yourself in love. We can give ourselves a hard time, honestly. No matter what we do, whether we make a right decision, it could have been better. If we make the wrong decision, we shouldn't have made it at all. But self-trust grows where self-criticism dies. Proverbs, life and death are in the power of the tongue, but you got to speak to yourself well, positively. Instead of saying, I always ruin things, change it and say, I'm learning, I'm growing. If you say, I can't make good decisions, I don't trust myself to make good decisions, change it to something that says, I'm becoming a wise decision maker. And I have the wisdom of God, I'm growing in the wisdom of God. I am in alignment with God's will. I keep using scriptural truth and personal truth and positivity. You want to rewrite your story. Instead of saying, I am someone who always messes up, change it to, I am someone who's learning. I am someone who's growing. I am someone who listens to God. And I am someone who honors God in my choices. Keep telling yourself that. It's going to take some time to rebuild the habit of positivity and self-trust. But self-trust ultimately grows with identity, not performance. You got to change who you are. Speak to yourself better. Be honest about who you are and where you need to be. Make those decisions in courage in spite of fear. And start small. If you make a big leap, make big decisions, and fail, your trust is still going to erode. So start small, build it up, depending on where you're at. Just drink a glass of water if that's where you're at. You have to go back to basics. Choose what shirt you are going to wear for the day within 10 seconds. Make it small, make it doable. Tell yourself that you are a capable person. And even if you mess up, you have the best Father in the world to redeem your story, to redeem your path. All throughout Proverbs, we plan our steps, but the Lord directs it. He will put you back on the path if you trust Him. So learn to trust Him, learn to trust yourself, walk with God, and ultimately love yourself through the process. You got to realize why you're not making decisions, why you're afraid of making decisions, why you're afraid of getting it wrong. Take an honest assessment of yourself, but be humble and work with those small steps, work with God to get you back into a trusting state with yourself. So you can make big decisions. You can be in the will of God. You can do the big and glorious things He has planned for you. Sorry for the trash truck, is the only time I could do this video. But be kind to yourself, be gracious, have mercy, forgive yourself for past mistakes. You are not the mistake, right? You make mistakes, you're human, and that's okay. But learn to trust yourself again with small steps. I'm going to put them up here at the end, just as a reminder. You can take a screenshot. But thanks for listening. I love you guys. Start small and love yourself through it.